Welcome guys to Team Crushing the Meta. Today we have a very exciting new video for you guys where I've managed to hit top 3 in BRO Europe 2021 and I managed to get 3rd place. So I was really excited to play in the tournament. Was really well organized by INTCG of course, also from the Netherlands where I live of course. And I managed to pick 3rd place with none other than Luard. And it's for the free premium format, and I tried to pick a list that suits me well, suits the meta well, and I think I have a very good job with that. Just managed to get 3rd place of course, and because of that I get to win the Bremen and a display box. So really happy to it. Met some really awesome and very impressive players. Cannot wait to play more against those in the future. But for that profile, I will just go over the cards that I play, not going into in depth of course. You can comment down below if you want certain scenarios or certain actions to be played out, and just ask them because I will answer them of course. And yeah, let's just go over in the deck profile. I will go round versus one after round of my matchups, and I will go over those so you also know what I played against. So for my starter, I play the track Prince Wood. It's just the V starter, nothing really spectacular about this. You have 2 starters in this particular deck that I play. But I think just having this as your main starter is very powerful because it's the best of them. Because the other one you can just search out for the main. So that's it. By the way, I have posted already my deck profile on Twitter, where I just posted a picture of all the cards that I play. You can find on the Dayvecht, and hopefully you guys will see it. Also, I liked to play with this specific playmat just because of course Corona is still going on, and this was one of the I really like Springfest, so playing Springfest with the mat just brings back memories from back then. So I was like, I will have to play with this playmat just because I think it's fitting. So one track Prince Wood of course. And then for the first interesting choice, I am playing for Dragheart Award. The decision began why I play this instead of the Dragfall, because that's the 2 options you can choose between, and of course Drag Strider, but you will see we will also be playing that. I was playing Dragheart Award because when I first began testing, and that was a couple of months ago, when the ban list hit, I was like, I want to play Dragheart Award because I like this style in V, or in premium I mean. Going first, you have some options to go aggressive instead of track photo where you just ride and just swing. Right now you gain 3 markers, gain extra value on the field, gain extra card draw, and I was like, I want to try that because track forward award we played a ton in the past. It was our main grade 3, and I was like, okay, let's try something new. In testing I found that the force markers were very impactful, because if you go first, you can essentially like set up a force 2 or force 2. Because you gain 2 marks because you will be riding track driver, but you can also set up multiple force 1s. And why is that so crucial? Because in the Dragheart turn where you go first and you go into Dragheart, you want to set your opponent for the finishing blow with Mufasa. So if they're like on 1 damage, you can choose to go for force 2, because with force 2 they go from 1 damage if they take 1 on the force 2 marker to 3 damage. And that's really big, because when you go into your stride turn, your front row gains an extra critical from Mufasa and 1 extra critical because of force 2. So you deal them 3 damage, and 3 against 3 makes 6, which is dead. So that's really important. If your opponent is more on 1, you can also choose to go force 1, because that means if they hit 1 attack and it's more likely to let it be hit because force 1 gives extra power, then it's from 2, 4 and 6. So you need to think in increments of either 2 or 3 and what suits the best. If you go second, it's also really important, because if you go second and you have like 3 damage to opponent, maybe like 1 big swing with the force 2 is more than enough to finish them. But because you're playing with the Veloard, you have that option to your disposal. Yes, you get less pluses during your stride turn, but I like to go more aggressive and play the Dragheart package. Then for my extra grade 3s, I'm playing 2 Drag Strider. First to play with my Dragheart Award because it needs a Drag Driver, not Drag Strider, sorry. accompany him, but also for the fact playing 2, because if you do a drag hard turn, then go back to your like use drag hard, go drag driver, go back to drag hard. You have 2 rewards in the soul at the moment when you try ride drag driver in the upcoming turn. So let's say for example you go into stride turn, you ride drag driver once again, and then you can for a counter plus 1 call 3 grade 1s, which is quite good. But still you're playing 2 copies. What was the likelihood to get that? I managed to pick 1 to 2 times that because I got this combo of like 2 times in the entire tournament with just count included, so it was okay, because what I usually did is fetch 1 with Bremen in the early game, and then when I go into drag hard rewards, I just fetch the other one from my deck. You can say, but what if you get the other drag driver to hand? That's why you play other grade 2s in this deck that are called Warrior Spear, that can also ditch you extra grade 3s from your hand for filtering, so it's in drop, then you can send it back to the deck with drag hard reward, and you have it live again. So really important is already a lot of talk about why I play the amount of grade 3s I play. Also I play 6 of those, 6 grade 3s in total that I want to write. I think it's better feeling than playing 4 grade 3s, what I have with drag for, of course, so I'm really happy about this. Okay, then I have 4 more Marine Spear, your IL deal grade 2 white target. Also very big beat in the early game. Helps you to set up your opponent's damage zone for your Mofessa turn. Also gives you ritual, is a 10k base, everything like that. So really happy about this card. I play it at 4 because you want to see it as soon as possible. Also during your drag hard reward turns when you go first. Really important piece, because with Force 2 your rare cards are usually small. If he gets like 10k from his skill, he becomes 20, 8k boosted 28. So that makes it so that even though it's on a Force 2, it still hits like a truck. If you set up 2 of those, it hits like a truck. So getting multiple of those is really needed. So that's it for my grade 2. Warrior Spear. Then I play 3 Dagda, attack extend during your stride turns, where you have GB. So also a really important piece for you to have, because it sets you up for extra stamp plays, extra multi-attack, and we make up to 7 attacks in the turn. So nothing to sneeze at, just don't want to see it in the early game because it's a dead piece. So I usually mulligan him away when I know, okay, I can just write any other grade 2. So don't want to play a 4th one because of that, because 4th means I want to see it early. I don't want to see it early, I want to see it in my stride turns. You have enough filtering, you have enough deck thinning, and you have enough searchability to see it, in my opinion at least, because I never saw it too less, to say the least. I had some scenarios where I had to dig deep for it, but nothing else. Then we come to a conclusion, because if you count it right, this is 3 and this is 4. That makes 7 grade 2s. And when I make this deck, I was landing this assumption, I want to play less grade 2s, but I don't want to play 7 grade 2s. And that's a bit contradictory to each other, because yes, I want to play more grade 1s because they can be filtered out, tutored out, and everything like that. But 7 grade 2s means I have to GSS a lot, which isn't going following my game plan. So I had to come up with a solution. I tried to play other grade 2s that had beneficial effects, such as Dark Pride, the other one that for counter plus 1 can call out 2 triggers, but I wasn't feeling it. I also tried out Lucius, because it has a very cool ruling about him. The promo card that can send any grade 1 back to the deck. And if you, let's say for example, gone through your deck a lot, and you have only 2 stand triggers left, just send 1 stand trigger back, because Professor changes to it grade 1, so it can be sent back with Usia, so you have extra potential for that. But that was just tech options, and I was like, getting that 1 grade 2, 2 grade 2s in the late stage of the game just means it's not reliable. It's not reliable for me, and I want a very reliable deck to hit my opponent with all the pressure I need. And Usias doesn't bring pressure, it's just there if it's early in your hand and you cannot really do anything with it. So I came up with this following solution. which is now in my deck. I'm playing the 1 copy of Dampwood and 1 copy of Blessed Dark. So this means that Dampwood can be searched out with the main, and Blessed Dark can be searched out with Dampwood, of course. That means that what I said earlier about grade 2s not being able to be tutored out of your deck isn't a problem, right? These two can be searched out indirectly, because Dampwood first, then Blessed Dark after. So you fix the solution of you have the tutoring out of your deck that a grade 1 gives, and also the fact that you deck fin a lot. So I now have 9 grade 2s, still a little bit low. I want to at least play 10, so I play the Vanguard Eagle. You can say, but Dave, having the Blessed Dark and Dampwood Dragon isn't like anything new. Yes, it is, in the sense that you are correct on that one. It isn't anything new, because when we used the Spearhead engine, we also played this, but that was for a different reason. For now, I don't want to have it for right consistency, in the sense that if I play 10 grade 2s, it doesn't give me more right consistency to play these two in the 10 grade 2s amount. So I was like, okay, it's not for right consistency, why would I even play it? So I got this, played any other grade 2, but as I said, it wasn't working out for me. Then I was thinking, okay, so I can tutor this out like a grade 1, and I was like, okay, it gives me more advantage than I would have thought of, because it instead of giving me the right consistency, which it gives a little bit but not optimal, it also gives me other factors such as deck finning, tutoring out. And when you, let's say for example, go first and you use this combo to fetch Blessed Dark out, if you like for example Soul Blast out, Blessed Dark later, send it both back with Dragonheart Reward, you have extra units to call out with the main that can be further deck finning for you. So you can actually use it twice in one single game, and with that it helps you a ton. Because usually when you're going first, you do the Dragonheart combo, you don't want to send grade 1s back actually to your deck, only if you really need them. And that's for the reason you want to set up Ritual 10 already, so you don't have to commit a lot during your stride turns, because your opponent will be striding first, so they give you a lot of pressure, so your hand size may be a little bit small. So in that regard you want to use less cards from your hand as possible. Then I have one Vanguard Eagle. I was already planning to play it, and just with Blessed Dark and the Dampwood just make a nice combination of grade 2s I want to play. Because Vanguard Eagle is just a very good card against certain decks. Just by intercepting with it, I can give my Vanguard a perfect card skill that can be hit until the end of the battle. So really appreciate it for that, and that makes 10 grade 2s. Then for the grade 1s, it isn't anything new. I play 4 Esros, because Esros is very good combo extender, attack extender if you use it with Darkta, just a very good PG, adding more PGs to your hand against certain matchups, just wonderful. And then for the main, as I have said, I have lots of combo potential in this card, so I need to run 4 of those. I need to see it ASAP. In most matchups I saw it. I would have said like in total I played like 12-13 games, I saw it like 7 to 8. So not the best, not the worst, but in those 8 games it had so much impact that I just need to play it at 4. If I could play it at 6, I will play it at 6. Essentially that. 2, then 3 Blue Espada. I play it because it gives me easy ritual, because if I mill top 3 and I mill triggers and grade 1s, that's actually good for me, so because triggers will become to grade 1. Also can give more in spirits if it's milled out of, so the only bad mill parts are actually your grade 3s and the other grade 2s. So that's essentially like 6 grade 3s and then 6 other grade 2s, so that means like 12. Yeah, 12 cards that are cards you don't want to mill, for the rest all perfect. So usually you mill 2 good cards with this, or yeah, 2 good cards in the form of Morian Spear or a trigger. Then 2 Karen, just your counter charge engine. I will just want to play 2, just very nice ratio. Don't want to play more because I already see it too much in my hand for the scenarios that I go into it. But if I have to, I can just play around it by sending it back to the deck with Dragonheart Reward and use it later for Takta, because this will refer to the counterplus use of Takta. 2 Burn, I really wanted to play it more, couldn't find space. Really good card now that we have Heal Guardians that are grade 3, so you can also search them out. really used it in the tournament. Also nice is 13k beater because it gives me flexibility on what to call out. Also makes great numbers. But as I said, I want to play more, don't have room, so I only playing 2 copies of it. Then 1 Abyssal Owl, another target for the main. If you're going like second, you can draw extra cards if you need some white consistency, of course, because adding an extra card to your hand makes it so you have one more card to G assist with, or gives you that extra weight, so you have more potential with that. Then I play 1 Fake Row, just a GC arrow start that you can also search out with the main. So as you can see, we have a lot of the main targets to play, and really happy to it. Then 3 Belaya Owl, combo extender, gets you to free draw, and since you're not playing Dragfall, you don't send cards back to your deck like Dragfall does. So you have this to also send itself to the back, so you don't deck out as fast as you would have. For stride crits, you need it since your stride reliant deck. Also, you don't have the free stride options, so it's just really needed. Make 7 crits in this deck. For stun triggers, the skill itself I would say is okay, like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a stun trigger, that's why we play it, and it's the best stun trigger that can send itself back to the deck. So with all that information, that is how we play it. I could have chosen to play more stun triggers, but as I have said, I want to rush early, and criticals are preferably better because they're more shield value if you play 15k shields, of course, 15k shield, 10k power crits, but also the fact that a critical is nothing your opponent can really count on. Yes, of course they can no trigger count, but against a stun trigger, you know you have to guard for that attack, and against the critical trigger, it's just the chance that you see it. Then for Chain Ranker, not Chain Ranker, I mean the Great 3 Hero Guardians, really powerful on this Maytime. I would say perfect that they brought it out. Nothing to complain about. Just happy that I got it in time for BO. Then 1 Over Trigger. I decided to go with this one. I was planning to maybe go with the 100 million one that gives it to 2 units, so the Grey Elemental. But getting 2 drive checks on all your records is just too insane if you get it off on the right time. So because it can be sometimes a little bit clunky with this one if you go into your strategy hoping on stands, but it's not, of course. Then for my stride deck, I have 3 Mufasa. I don't play 4 because that will be like going into your third one is already the greatest luxury you have. Playing a 4th one isn't really necessary because you will be dead or your opponent will be dead at that time. But just the most impactful stride you have. Then 2 Drag Abyss. I used it once during the tournament. It's usually when you don't have any counterblast that you go into this. Luckily I had counterblast the entire tournament. Only went into top 8 where I didn't have any counterblast after I used strike turn, I think. That's why I went into it, and my opponent was on 5. So with that, the power to the front row is also bigger than Mufasa. I could have potentially like called out the trigger out, and then not the trigger, I mean the starter that can count charge one and goes into soul for you, and then use Ezra's to get a count charge. But I thought this was more impactful and gives me more deck filling than Mufasa does, so that's why I played at that, and just 2 copies. Then for people that don't play around this card is just Death Momental. Otherwise it's just a card that you will never use because every opponent is playing around it. Then 1 Chain Ranker has a better restriction than Mufasa, only doesn't give power and critical to the front row. So use it to your own advice, because it can sometimes be worse, sometimes be better than Mufasa, and you usually need only 1. Reasonable Vanguard against decks that lock you, such as my Colony, Chaos Breakers and everything like that. That locks out of your place with Vanguard, so you need this for those certain matchups. 1 Ogma if you're milling with more Blue Eyes Spada Dragon was insane early game, and you have your entire field up with the main, and your opponent doesn't have any rear cards on field because otherwise they will be retired. And if you get it off, it's just insane. If your opponent has 8 cards in hand and they need to discard 5, very powerful effect. but usually first flip target that I would go for. 2 Plot Maker, most generic G card that I have. Then 1 Dark Veil Dragon, because it's just a very big G card if you go late into the game. Only it costs Soul Blast, and Soul Blast is scarce in this deck because there are a lot of cards that use Soul. Jelly though, 3 cards for essentially retiring 2 great ones, of course, so very helpful with that. Dismal is one I like to play because if you mill a lot of Tactas, you only have 1 Tacta left on your field or end, you want to protect it at all costs, so that's why you have Dismal. Also for the fact that Van Dive Eagle, if you're playing against a deck that does 3 attacks, or wants to swing in with 1 important rear card, let's say for example you perfect guard at the Vanguard, and they get all criticals to the rear card. You have your Van Dive Eagle live, and you want with Van Dive guard against the rear card that is like 3 critical. They will likely attack with the other rear card they have into the Van Dive, and with Dismal you can deny that, so you can choose whenever you want to use the Van Dive at the appropriate time. Because if something is like 100 million because an over trigger with triple critical or something, it's best to use that. So that's why Dismal is also there. And then Rectome to unclock your hand if your hand is full of crit trees, or create your extra ritual during your opponent's turn. So if they, for example, counteract because this and that and this, that's why you have Rectome. And then 1 quick shield because, yeah, it's mandatory, okay. That was really it for the deck profile and the deck's explanation. For Force 1 and Force 2 I already tried to like explain everything, but you usually use Force 2 where your opponent is on 1 damage or 3, and then it's the difference if you do it during your first great G-turn where you go into drag hard or later, of course. But this needs a lot of testing whether you want to go for Force 1 or for Force 2, because it can make a big difference in terms of game, in how the game plans out. For my matchups, I played in the first one against Luard Mirror. He was using, if I remember, yeah, he was using the track for Luard. Unfortunately, he had more tempo because he had opened Morion Spear, the main everything. I had just grade 1 Ashras, grade 2 Morion Spear, and grade 3 track hard Luard, and then only triggers on my hand. So I couldn't make any tempo, and I lost because I had to give him the first stride. Hopefully I would survive. I didn't, I died. End of the story. Yeah, nothing really important right there. Then for the second match in the or the second round, I played against the P, the Mage Police. Luckily won that. Third round against Tavas, survived his first great 3 turn, and with that I went into my stride turns. Played around his shield amount because Tavas, of course, has a G Guardian that for counter plus 1 can choose any rear guards, and they will effectively get resist. And also the G card gains 5k for every rear guard chosen, and since he decreased the amount of rear guards he has by using Core Assault and the grade 1, Narissa I think she is called, that shield amount is actually lower than it would be if they just didn't use that effect. A little bit of a misplay I would think from my opponent's side, but I played around that fact and made my rear guard attacks just high enough to counterplay against 1 trigger, and it happened. So really happy with that. Then against another Luard Mirror, he was playing the V version, but now I had the tempo hand. He went first, I think. Like, I don't really remember this match because it was just a tempo match. I think I first tried and he was dead. Then I played against Grand Blue. Really counterplayed against him with counter blast, everything like that. Made sure, because what's really important against that match is let's say for example Yeb Necrolating, and that can go out Beatrice and Colombard, or not Colombard, Scantic and Near, and that, like, if you attack with 1 rear guard, then they will snipe the other one. What I did is attack with Dacta first. And that's really weird, right? Because why the hell would you attack with Dacta first? I had more grade 1s on the field than only the one in the other column, because I didn't have Morion Spear. If he would G-guard it against that one, that means that when I hit a stand trigger, I get 1 extra attack, and with Dacta I get 2. But if I attack with this first, of course, and they guard and they snipe the Dacta, then what that means is that with 1 stand trigger I get 1 extra attack. So it actually is the other way around. So I get 2 extra attacks. Also the fact is I made sure that my doctor was 44k on the first attack, and they immediately want to snipe, of course. And Necrolily on itself, without any triggers, comes 37. So they need to commit 2 more cards from the hand to the Guardian to even protect that one single attack. And that's how I outplayed him and managed to get the win, because he didn't saw that line of play coming, didn't prepare for it, because if they set up enough interceptors, they can potentially do it, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Then I played against another Grand Blue. This time it was Maxime from Vanguard, of course. We played on stream. I think it's better to say nothing about that match, because he just bricked essentially, and it was a free win, as unfortunate as it would seem. Then I went into round 7 against the host on the Butama. Managed to win that one, keep my quick shield on hand when I go second. So when he goes into his Renee turn, where he already had GB3 because I first strode, didn't manage to kill him. So because I had a quick shield, I could call it, disappear, and not receive another extra attack. And then for the last round, I played against another grappler player. And because I lost the first round, I really had to win that match. I had to win the match to go into top 8, because my time breakers were shit. But that Nova Grappler player was undefeated to the entire Swiss round. So I had to play against the person that went X0. And I was like, okay, if I need to go to top 8, I need to defeat him. And I managed to do it, and I got into top 8. So next day, which is today that I record this video, only for me it's in the afternoon. And I played it like 12 o'clock, my top 8. So I went into a DI player at first round, and it was like, we knew the matchups beforehand. I was talking about a friend of mine, Chris, that helped me a little bit with deck building, in the sense that we discussed a lot of things. We both play Shadows, and we were just chit-chatting around, let's say, for this and that and so. And we also played a lot against each other. Played tested a lot. And he's more like a Dark Regulars main than rather a Shadow main. So I was talking about him how to play against Shadows, because I was like, okay, I will make a game plan for it and like try to execute it when I get to play, if it's the right circumstances, like do I have this on hand, that on hand, and how can I play it out. And what happened, he went first, so that was worst case scenario for me. And because I had a strategy to go first, but if I go in second, I saw my winning chance to go more to the negative side for me. But he GS'd for a great one, and I immediately saw his hand, and I was like, okay, very important information. He had Emblem Master on hand, Tragic Claw on hand, but no NOK, he had Emblem Master on hand. Or not Emblem Master, I mean Number of Terror. So I was like, okay, I have a few options. So I went, I just attacked him. He right into Tragic Claw, he used Emblem Master to his shenanigans, but he had no count charge on it. And that was really important also for me to know, because when I go into my second, or into my grade 2 turn, I had a choice. He had 7 soul at the time. I thought he had, because what happens when he has 7 soul and he doesn't have any counter bless, I can safely give him the 1 counter bless, because, well, I mean 2 counter bless, I can give him 2, because when he rides with NOK over Tragic Claw, so he needs to draw the NOK, of course, then if Tragic Claw gives him 1 soul, NOK gives him 1 soul, makes it 9. Generally, a counter bless will give 3 soul in the form of an Emblem Master and anything, but he didn't draw a Killer Tail. Killer Tail can give another soul, of course. So that will make 12. I set up my turn, everything like that, and then my opponent, or not the opponent, the judge, noticed that he had 8 souls, so he misinformed me. It was just it was at fault from the opponent, just a small mistake in counting that made it so I would make different approaches to, of course, the turn. And because he receives that warning and had warnings prior to the top 8, he got a game loss, and I couldn't finish the match, like on win or lose for the top 8. But I played against him further. I just said, okay, want to still end the match just like normally, just play friendly, because I want to know. And what it came down, he went into his NOK turn, or I go into my strike turn, he survives, or not? No, because he sorry, just confused, because he stayed on grade 2. I go into grade 3, I get my marker set up everything, give him all the counterplays he wants. He goes into his NOK turn, because he managed to get NOK. Or no, he went into Progenitor. Sorry, a little bit mixed up, because it what happens when you go out of a top 8 match into top 8 match, I tend to lose all information that was prior to it, because when you're playing in top 8, you're so focused on winning, and then when they said, okay, you have a game win, and the opponent got a game loss, I was like, okay, cool, I can go to the next match, but then I decided to play onward, so I was blacked out by that. So it was essentially a new match for me. Maybe a weird feeling, of course, but he White Emblem went to the Progenitor, just retired my rearguards, everything, gave me a counter blast. Then I went into my turn, go into Mafessa, he survived, he goes into his turn, he managed to get NOK and did the whole shenanigans with Assassin, Number of Terror, Barrow Magnus, Hope on them, everything. I survived, had enough PGs and New Guardians in hand. Then I should have gone into my Mafessa turn, I probably would have killed him, but because of time, I ended the match. Unfortunately we couldn't finish it, of course, and the reason for it is because Luward has a stacked drop zone, and with a stacked drop zone I mean all the grade 1 are on each other and all grade 0. So you need to shuffle well between matches, because you don't want to break based on that. So I said to my opponent, okay, we have 5 minutes before the next one starts. Is it okay if I just end this match because I want to shuffle? He agreed, and we just ended the match. I had 5 markers set up, he had 12 cards hand with 3 protect markers in it. I think I would have won, but we will never know, of course. Then against the next match, I played top 4 against Narukami. I lost, unfortunately. There was one card interaction that I misunderstood, because I was for notice that I couldn't look at the deck log, unfortunately, but I managed to lose and had to play for the 3rd or 4th place. I played against Grand Blue, and I think it was against Kevin Cho, and I got the win because of overtime. The match was very long. We got I got healed, he got healed, I think like 1 to 2 times. He went into his 2nd strike turn. I cannot really remember all that anymore, because it was a very clouded day. I played in all 3 regions and then went into top 8 for you. But I managed to win that game, because he was on 4, I was on 1, and it was sudden death after that. So got 3rd place. I will get my Bremwen display, of course, and a certificate, so really happy to get that. Really happy that I topped with my boy Luward, because I really enjoyed this deck. My first choice would have been Gear Chronicle, but because of the format that BRO is played in, where you need to 3-way cut your deck, decks that shuffle a lot is almost unplayable, in my opinion, because you will go to deck out, of course. So I will give you my deck profile also for Gears, for what I would have played for Gear Chronicle, and also since I think Gear Chronicle is not a bad deck in any opinion. But hopefully you enjoyed this deck profile. It was a fast one in the sense that I just went over the deck, over the cards, not go too depth into an explanation. But of course, hopefully if you guys have any questions regarding cards, interaction and everything, leave it down in the comments and I will try to answer them. So have a nice day and goodbye.